Today we doing a tutorial. It's on AWS because that's where we're headed with it. So without further ado, let's get back to the lab. But before we do, let me give you a quick high-level explanation of what we're getting into so we don't have to do it in the lab. The first thing we'll talk about is the IAM roles. IAM roles are like user accounts that services use to run processes. So for instance, you might have some services that you need to run at various times throughout the day, but you can't be logged into a console 24/7 to run the operations manually. So you use a service to handle the functions for you, but the service is not a user. The service doesn't have the appropriate permissions to access files and to run the operations against the files to do everything that you want them to do. And that's where IAM roles come in. They're basically user accounts with certain permissions that you assign to services so that they can have the authority to run your operations for you and access all of the data. The second thing is policies. Policies are the actual rules that you attach to the users, the groups, or the roles so that they can have the authority to perform operations on data and access data. The IAM role is a user account for services, and policies are the rules that get attached to users, groups, and roles so that they can have the authority to run operations. Now we will jump into the lab and take a look at what we've been talking. All right, family, here we are back in our lab again. In the AWS Management Console, we're gonna assume that you've already logged in and you know how to do all of that. If you haven't, we've got videos in this series. Just go back and look at the AWS playlist and you can find all the videos from the first one that teaches you how to go out and actually sign up for a free AWS account. And it'll progress through setting your sandbox up so that you can up your skills, build your skills in peace, okay? So we're here in our AWS Management Console and we are going to go to IAM, all right? And so here we are in Identity and Access Management. That's what IAM stands for. And as you can see again, it's got a warning and it's telling us add your MFA for the root user. If you remember, we didn't add MFA to this account because it's our lab account. We don't want to have to put in the MFA every time we log in here. But if this was a production account or you were using this account for a personal business or something, you definitely want to enable your MFA. Okay, so let's get into some roles. Let's take a look at some roles. And in the left-hand column over here, you'll see the word roles. And if you click on roles, it will bring you to this screen right here. And there are some canned roles right here inside of the interface. And as you can see, it says AWS service role for Amazon Elastic File System, role for backup, role for support, and for trusted advisor. These were already pre-created by AWS and they are managed by AWS. You don't have to do anything. Now, so you got some services you want to run, or you need to auto scale some EC2 instances, or you need to run some Lambda functions, or you need to do just about anything that you need to do automatically or remote, without you actually having to manually do it. You're going to need an IAM role created for whatever service that is to run those functions and operations. So let's go right up here. If you see in the right hand corner, it says create role. We'll click it. It brings us here. And as you can see, there are different types of IAM roles. You got one for AWS services, one for another AWS account belonging to you or a third party. So that gives an outside AWS account that is not affiliated with you or your business. You can create a role to give them access to your resources, your EC2 instances, your S3 buckets, so that they can perform operations, read data, manipulate data, whatever you want to give them, whatever permissions you give them, then they'll have that. And you've got one for SAML Federation. Oh, and I'm sorry, web identity is also. Two of the most common use cases for IAM roles are going to be EC2 instances and Lambda functions. And if you take a look right here, it says choose a use case. And then it shows you common use cases are going to be EC2, which allows EC2 instances to call AWS services on your behalf. Remember what I said? It allows a service to run operations on your behalf for you. And Lambda functions allows Lambda functions to call AWS services on your behalf. Now, all of these services right here also use IAM roles, or IAM roles can be used with them. As you can see, there's quite a few of them. All of these you can use IAM services with. All right, so we're going to choose an IAM role for an EC2 server instance. So we'll click EC2, and then we click next permissions down here in the bottom. The next page that opens up, policies. This is the policy page, and you're going to attach permissions policies to the IAM role that we're creating right now. These are some policies that AWS has, predetermined and set inside here so that you can choose from, right? You can create a policy, which we'll look at later. That's kind of its own thing. Or you can choose some pre-canned policies that AWS has created. And as you can see here, there are 915 policy choices. Keeping it simple, we're just going to go in here, search and say IAM. It's going to find IAM for us, and we're just going to check IAM full access. We want this role to have full access to IAM to be able to do whatever you need to do with IAM permissions, right? And so then we're going to go next. Here you can add tags to the role to define it in some other way, and it's a key value pair. You can say name and put a description. You can say group and put the name of the group. You can put department, put the name of the department. Just another way to be able to correlate and parse the data. But we're not going to add any tags on this one, so we're just going to click next review. Now here you're going to put the name of the role. So I'm just going to make up a name. This is going to be we'll say super IAM role. Can't have any spaces. You can have any of these characters, no spaces. Role description allows IAM access. I think you can have spaces in the description, but I just didn't put none in there. You can see that policy said that I am allowing full access to IAM. The trusted entity is an EC2 instance. We're going to go create role. And as you can see, super IAM role has been created right here, and it is in the bottom of our list. And if we click on the role here, we'll be brought into a summary. Gives us the ARN, role description, trusted relationships, if there are any. We're going to do some later stuff with this role when we get into EC2 instances. And so that's it for IAM roles. That's how you create them. Add a permission set or a policy. Now let's just go back over here to the left-hand side, and we're going to take a look at policies while we're here. So we'll click on policy, and it brings us back to the policies window. All of the AWS pre-canned policies are in this field. As you can see, 46 pages worth. There are a total of 915 pre-canned policies. But like I said, you can create your own policy. Quickly to run through it, what you would do is, this is the policy editor. The policies are coded with JSON, so you would have to know JSON programming language to write them yourself. But obviously, AWS says everybody doesn't know how to code, so we have a visual editor too. You'll choose your service. So if we wanted to choose IAM, boom, we choose IAM. We say what kind of actions we want to give read only to IAM. We don't want to give it all. We don't want everything. We're only giving read only. It's going to specify some resources. We can add additional permissions, or we can just go on and go next to tags. We're not going to get into it right now. We'll get into that in another video, but just wanted to show you what it looked like and how it worked. Fam, that's it. We went through it. And You know, I got a new policy I want to introduce to y'all, and that is smashing the like button so that YouTube will share these videos with other people who may benefit from the content. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, by all means, click the subscribe button. We putting out content all the time, and we going through this AWS journey together. If you want to be notified whenever a new video drops, just click the bell icon and YouTube will notify you almost immediately. And with that, fam, we gonna get up out of here. Until the next video, peace.